as I was saying, if you look at actual essays that scholars publish in academic journals, they do not start and end with quotes. Okay, just steer clear of that stuff. Use your words, as we say, right? Use your words. Put quotes later. Don't do that. By the way, you don't. My rule: you can use quotes in the introduction and conclusion if you want to. Try not to start and end with them. But you don't have to if you don't want to, because they're not essential. But you do have to use at least one in all of your body paragraphs. So keep that in mind. Okay? So my topic sentence, Aristotle argues first against pleasure as happiness. By the way, this is a nice word, first and second and third or finally or lastly or whatever, which I do throughout the paper. I use those kinds of words. They really help a reader, especially since you're writing for somebody who's never read the material. You're not writing for me. They really help the reader know where you are in your discussion. First, Descartes sets out to find a self-evident proposition upon which to build the rest of his argument. There's your first topic sentence for your first paragraph after the introduction. Introduction, that is your first topic sentence. Use it. I don't care. Use it so that you understand what we're trying to do here. Just keep it simple. And then, too, this is also helpful, something students seem to have a problem with, and I really try to eradicate in student writing. You don't just throw a whole bunch of topics into one paragraph. What is the rule for paragraphs? When you start a new topic, you start a new paragraph. It's only supposed to be one topic per paragraph. So if you use a topic sentence, then you can figure out, wait a minute, my topic sentence here is about pleasure. Why am I starting to talk about his stuff about honor? I better not do that. This paragraph is only supposed to be about his discussion of pleasure, so I can't be talking about anything else. It will make, if you can do it and follow it, it will make your paper so much more organized. And since you're writing for somebody who doesn't know anything about this stuff, you really, really, really want to be very, very organized. Plus, it will illustrate to me that you have these skills, which will make your grade go up. Okay? The more organized your thoughts, the better you can understand what someone else is saying. And by the way, this is something I always do when I'm having an argument, whether it's heated or not, with a friend or family member or somebody. I will always say, after they put forth their position or whatever, their point, if it's not just immediately obvious what it means, I will always say, okay, wait. Can I restate what you just said to make sure I understand it? And by the way, people respond to that because it means you care about what they're saying. You want to get it right, and you're actually listening to what they're saying. And this actually ends up working in everybody's favor, especially when you're arguing with someone you care about, because then you guys can actually come to some kind of resolution and maintain a happy friendship, which is always nice. So I will always say, let me restate your argument. And I restate it in my own words, and then they can say, no, that's totally not what I meant. And then I can come to understand this person I care about better. So you have to get in the habit of doing this in your writing. Restate what the person is saying so that I can say, this isn't what he's saying. And then you can say, oh, okay, I'm learning more. Which is the point of the class, to learn. Yay. So that can happen if you first and foremost restate what someone is saying. So that's what you're supposed to be doing. So do that by making a nice outline, topic sentences, and following them one topic per paragraph. So for those of you writing on Descartes, this is super easy because all you have to do is you have 3 arguments that you have to put forth. The one for the mind, the existence of the mind, I think therefore I am. one for the existence of God, and the last one for the existence of the body in the external world. That's a 5-paragraph essay. Intro, existence of mind, existence of God, existence of external world, conclusion. There's your outline. Write some topic sentences and fill in the content. For those on Hobbes, if you're writing on the 3 causes of quarrel, which you can write on, easy. Introduction. First cause of quarrel, competition. Second cause of quarrel, diffidence. Third cause of quarrel, glory. Conclusion. 5 paragraphs. If you're writing on the laws of nature, introduction. You'll see this when I put up my lecture video. A law of nature in general, first law of nature, second law of nature, conclusion. 5 paragraphs. Pretty easy. But you're going to put all kinds of things wherever if you don't set everything out in a nice, organized fashion and follow topic sentences and keep only to the topic. So do that. Now, look what I did. My second topic sentence is a topic sentence, and it's fine, but it's still about pleasure. So if you look at my my next paragraph about wealth, secondly, Aristotle argues against wealth as happiness. And my last paragraph, finally, Aristotle argues against honor as happiness. They all the topic sentences took the same form. So anybody who is reading this would say, okay, so her paper is going to be, I've never read Aristotle. Looks like Denise's paper is going to be about how Aristotle argues against pleasure, wealth, and honor as happiness. Okay. Oh, look, she said right off the bat, the first thing she's going to do is talk about how Aristotle argues against pleasure as happiness. Awesome. I bet the next thing she'll talk about is how he argues against wealth as happiness. Oh, look, that's exactly what she's doing. This is great. It's so easy to follow now. Oh my God. And she ended up with why honor isn't happiness. Perfect. I was so able to follow this, and I don't know anything about Aristotle, and now I do, and it's easy. So, try to do that kind of stuff. Now, let's look at back to my first paragraph about pleasure. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, by the way. You can read it, and you should. In order to disabuse the many, he just means the majority of people in that phrase, the many of this conception of happiness, Aristotle contends that those who would choose a life of pleasure appear completely slavish, since the life they decide on is a life for grazing animals. Now, students will just stop there. And by the way, that is all that Aristotle provides as an argument against pleasure as happiness, because we only have Aristotle's lecture notes from when he was teaching at his university left over. We don't have anything that he actually wrote. So, if you ever saw, my lecture notes, I fill in a little more of the blanks in the notes that I put online for you. But if you just saw my lecture notes, what I use that only I see, it'd be like a word. And you'd say, what the hell does all of this mean? What the hell is she talking about on this stuff? I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, and that's exactly what we have from him. So we have to figure out what he's trying to say. He would have expanded on that for probably an hour in his classroom, right? But we just have the one sentence. So students will just kind of put in a quote like that and just stop there. Like a reader is supposed to know what that means, or why it's in there, or how that's an argument, or anything. So don't do that. Notice that I did not. I followed up that quote with an explanation in my own words, which is exactly what you're supposed to do as part of the 3 steps of any quote. Quote, explanation of quote in your own words, explanation of significance of the quote. So, I say after, this assertion suggests that seeking pleasure as a way of life is beneath human beings, considering that cows and pigs also seek only pleasure. Happiness, it is implied, is not so inferior, nor is it something shared with lower animals. There you go. Suddenly a reader would say, oh, okay, I'm catching on a little more, because I had no idea what that quote meant by itself. So thank you, writer of the paper, for explaining it to me. And also, if I were writing this for a class, my professor would have said, she gets it. She understands Aristotle. Raise that grade. That grade is going up. Okay? So, do that. Now, the next paragraph, I put in the notes, or the writing notes here. So, since I started out with the word furthermore, that's very helpful for a reader. It tells the reader, wait, I'm not done with this discussion of pleasure. There's another point about it, but I'm still in this discussion. It's not finished yet, but it's a slightly different point enough, and it's different enough that I need to start a new paragraph, which is exactly what I did. So furthermore, we learn from the introduction that pleasures are represented. Okay, and then I put in the quotes, whatever. I explain the quotes in my own words with my own example. That's also amazing to do. If you can provide your own example for something and it's, actually correct, that illustrates to a teacher that you understand the ideas very deeply, because you can actually apply them to the real world. This is extraordinary. Your grade will go up if you can do that for me. So that's exactly what I do. That is, by the way, the phrases that I use, that is, which means in other words, and earlier I said this assertion suggests. I don't have to start the sentence with those kinds of phrases. I can just start the sentence, but those are wonderful little signposts for a reader. They say to the reader, I know you didn't understand that quote. I'm going to tell you right now what it means, so don't worry. Just chill out, read the rest. I'm about to tell you what it meant. And that is amazing for a reader. It also says, because sometimes what we quote is so difficult that then the next sentence that you provide is an explanation of it in your own words. I've read this in papers many times because I read very difficult material in philosophy. The writer will quote the original source, and then he'll say what it said in his own words after. But what he says it said is so different, and the original quote is so difficult, so dense, that I don't even see how the original quote means what this scholar said it means. And they're so different that sometimes I say, is he trying to explain what the original quote meant? Or is he saying something wholly different? And so if that person would have put in there, in other words, or what Aristotle meant by this quote was, or what this means is, or this assertion suggests, or what he's claiming here is, if these scholars would just put that in, then I would know, okay, even though this seems really, really different from the original quote, because the original writer was just a genius and nobody understands him, this person is trying to tell me what he said. So whatever this sentence is, it is supposed to be a restatement of the original difficult quote. I've got to figure out, in fact, how they are alike. That's really important when we are quoting very difficult texts. So providing these kinds of signposts like I've done, that is, in other words, whatever, is very, very helpful. Always get into the habit of doing this. You're never going to be marked down for doing something like that. In fact, it's only going to make your writing more clear, and any teacher is going to give you a higher grade when your writing is clearer. So, here I restate it. That is, pleasures, bodily or otherwise, do not tend to stick around in the same manner as happiness. Here's my example. Aristotle does not talk about cupcakes. It's my example. Biting into the cupcake may afford me great pleasure, but it will last no longer than the cupcake lasts. Etc., etc., etc. Okay, so I do that. The final thing that I do, I didn't do the third step for quoting in the first paragraph about pleasure because I waited until the end of that second paragraph about pleasure and I did it all at once. I summed it all up, and in fact, that third step about explaining the significance of the quotes, why they're in there, how they back up the thesis, how they relate to the topic, that whole business, it actually doubles as a concluding sentence for the paragraph, which is nice, or for that discussion of pleasure. So my final thing there, the bolded sentence explanation of the significance of the quotes for my thesis. These quotes suggest, another little signpost for the reader. You know exactly what I'm referring to. A fundamental difference between pleasure and happiness, from which we must conclude Aristotle's initial assertion. Happiness is not pleasure. You'll notice that my concluding sentences on each of the paragraphs takes exactly the same form as that one. And if you look at my next paragraph about wealth, with this quote, Aristotle establishes yet again a fundamental difference between wealth and happiness, and once again we can conclude nothing other than this. Happiness is not wealth, just as it was not pleasure. And then I do the same exact thing with honor. And and don't worry about repeating yourself or something. Don't get worried. I don't expect you to have some amazing technique and be able to vary your vocabulary and all these fancy pants things. And I don't even expect you to know how to use semicolons, because most people don't. By the way, if you don't know how to use them, just don't use them, because you don't need to use them. Just put a period there and you'll be fine. I expect you to write correctly with proper technique. I don't expect you to be an amazing writer. You can get better as we practice. And that's what I expect. That you'll put forth the effort to practice to get better. And one day you can indeed have an excellent writing technique. And there will be some of you who will right now. But I still expect to see that you can organize a philosophical paper with the correct philosophical technique. So, if anybody wants to start writing early and send me a funneled intro or a thesis or whatever, just email that to me and then I'll send you back comments. Okay, if you have any other questions, email me with that stuff too. All right, good luck, guys.